Welcome everybody back to the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast. It's Thursday, and you know what that means. It is our AEW review show. It's actually our second podcast after the wonderful Zach Zodiac earlier on. And as usual, it's AEW, which means one thing. We have our AEW guru, our Dynamite man, Dave DMD, who is rocking the merch. There it is. Dave, as always, welcome.
I feel officially part of the team now, mate.
You are officially the family, part of the family now. You can wear that to All In, so we can plug it out. I'm joking. Right. Before we start with AEW, we always seem to have bits of news that's floating around. So before we get into Dynamite, the first bit you broke last week. This is why we have you on this show. Last week you sat here and you went, I have heard a whisper that AEW are going to get a streaming deal. And lo and behold, last night it pretty much was confirmed without it being officially confirmed. AEW has going to have a streaming deal. It's going to be 5 years, $200 million a year, $1 billion streaming deal. This is huge for AEW, Dave.
Yeah. There was speculation. We'd heard bits about it, but it looks like it's going to be pretty much, guaranteed now. Obviously, there's news next week on Dynamite. I suspect that will be just confirming the additional Saturday night show and the additional streaming deal.
Yeah, I reckon so. And they've also mentioned now that Rampage is going to be more like Sunday Night Heat.
Yeah.
Version of Sunday Night Heat.
Again, they've got rid of Dark and Elevation. So to use Rampage more in that facility, as alongside Ring of Honor, we said a few weeks ago that made a lot of sense to us. It looks like that's the way they're going.
Yeah, it does make perfect sense to do that. I'm looking forward to the changes when they happen. And as you said last week, they've got 2 pay-per-views back to back. So hopefully they can launch this streaming channel in time so that people don't necessarily have to pay out for 2 pay-per-views.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
So hopefully that'll be good. But I mean, that's huge for AEW. The second part is a little bit, not say disappointing, but Double or Nothing is literally, I think it's 2 weekends away now. We're 2 weekends away for Double or Nothing. And last month, they sold 222 tickets for the show. Now, I've got 2 theories on this, and I'll share them with you, and we'll see if you agree. Number one, sometimes you can book a show without a card.
Yeah.
Forbidden Door, All In. This one, I just think it feels like they've neglected it a little bit because of All In, maybe even All Out. And I just think they've not even, this week they started to announce some matches, but they've tried to book a show with no card, with something else going on in the background. I just feel like they've neglected it a little bit. And even the build to the main event, even this week, was flat, really.
Yeah. There's been a lot going on, hasn't there? And a lot, as you say, distractions, bigger events, really, or bigger things coming than perhaps a pay-per-view, which is usually, with AEW having 4, 1 per quarter, that's the build, but there's been so much else going on. It has, as you say, been kind of relegated a little bit in terms of its importance. It's interesting as well with what's happened in the last few weeks in pro wrestling and the crowds, particularly international crowds, getting such a getting so much positive comments about them, and 80,000 potentially All In this year. That they keep going back to the same markets in America, such as Vegas, such as Chicago. Sooner or later, you're going to have to, stop relying on those as much and try some markets that, haven't had wrestling there other than perhaps house shows for years. With it being in Vegas, it's Memorial Weekend as well. So obviously a holiday season in America, and that increases hotel costs and travel costs and everything. So that may be another factor with that weekend for Double or Nothing.
It could be. It could well be. I'm sure, by the time that one I think rolls around, it'll be fine. But it was just a bit concerning. We've hit 60. I think it was 65 last time I checked, thousand at Wembley. So we'll be sure to fine. Anyway, we'll digress. Dynamite. This week, I literally had one note that was scribbled across my paper, which was, "Wow." And from one of the first time, I mean, obviously, as you know, I'm a big WWE guy. I love wrestling, so I'm not biased towards a particular product or organization.
Yeah.
But this is the first week when I can sit here and say, Dynamite was top to bottom brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And we'll kick off. It kicked off on fire. It kicked off with Rey Fenix and Claudio Castagnoli. A double Jeopardy match. So this stemmed from Ring of Honor. So what I liked about this already, we already got the build. If you've watched Ring of Honor, or it basically they had this backstage. Phoenix was talking about how he was proud to wear the tag titles. Claudio was there. They had a bit of a to-do. Phoenix said, "Oh, I like the look of that world belt." Claudio said, I'd like to have those tag team belts again. And that initiated a double Jeopardy match, which is the winner of the match will get a shot at the respected opponent's title, meaning Claudio wins, he gets a shot at the tag titles. If Phoenix wins, he gets a shot at the world title. This match was fantastic. It was brilliant. Bell to bell. There was no room to breathe in these 15 minutes. There were so many great spots. I've written a few down. Ultimately, Castagnoli gets the win and will get a shot with a partner of his choosing to take on Lucha Brothers. I'm assuming at Ring of Honor, but they could do it all in. Dave, what a start to Dynamite.
Mate, I share that. I was absolutely blown away this week from the whole show, start to finish. It got to half an hour in, and I thought they cannot keep this going for 2 hours. And I'm so glad that they did. There was very little to criticize in this episode. And it reminded me of an episodes, probably about a year ago when they had the real boom, the real feel-good factor around the company, and so many talented wrestlers and performers that we discuss every week. But Claudio Castagnoli, he's right up there with the top wrestlers in the world. He has been for years. But this week on Dynamite, if anybody needed any convincing about Claudio, just watch that match back, because they had such chemistry working together. Everything Claudio does just snaps. Every move he takes, he sells so well. He just doesn't make mistakes. And when he's in there with a guy such as Rey Fenix, they can just make magic. That spot when Rey Fenix does a suicide dive to outside and Claudio catches him into a military press. That was just, I've not seen that before. The strength of the guy is incredible, and great match. And I'm looking forward to that tag match. As you say, maybe Ring of Honor, they might keep it back a couple of weeks for Double or Nothing.
They could do, I'll be very intrigued. I mean, that set the bar and set the tone for the show. It was absolutely brilliant, and I was blown away. Now there's a couple of segments before the next match. The first thing that happens is we see a pair of legs on the screen. It's Miro. He's come out of the blue. He was stopped by Renee. He walked right past and went into Tony Khan's office. We'll get back to that in a minute. FDR was in the ring. Briscoe come out. Lethal come out as well. There was the challenge to FDR for the titles. Dax said he would accept it if they stopped, if they admitted to using Mark, basically. Briscoe comes out. Any in the day, they had a drink. Sonjay spits it in Dax's eyes, and a big brawl issues, and Dax ends up power driving Briscoe. Then we go back. We're going to do quite a lot in one go here. Then we go back. Jericho is all beaming, and basically he said that Adam Cole's created an unsafe work environment. Jericho has legal papers. Adam Cole's not allowed in the venue. Roderick Strong's here, and basically next week they've announced a Falls Count Anywhere match. But Roderick's has got JAS banned from ringside. Last bit before we break, and I'll let you have your say, is Renee was waiting outside of the room for Miro to come out. All of a sudden, here comes Thunder Rosa from another one that's been out for so long with injury. And then she goes into Tony Khan's office. So let's start at the top. that's obviously booking Collision, in my opinion. These guys, we know there's heat between Thunder and Britt, legit heat. We know that. We know there's issues with Thunder and some of the women's roster. So that's obviously probably pushing towards her going to the Collision roster. I would imagine Miro's on its way there as well. Secondly, these tag titles, we're assuming this is double or nothing, or it could be sooner unless it's been announced. If it has, my apologies. And lastly, the Falls Count Anywhere match next week should be a barnstormer.
Yeah, I wrote down just Miro in capital letters when he appeared. I'm a big Miro fan. I think UK wrestling fans are huge Miro fans.
Yeah.
People that saw him in the WWE with his Rusev Day stuff. His Redeemer character in AEW was so over. And I think there was this overwhelming feeling that he was being underused. Or he had so much more. He was capable of so much more. And he's had some good matches, and he's been placed in some prominent spots. But perhaps combined with injuries, he just hasn't got the momentum that we'd all like to see. So bringing him in for Collision, it appears with Thunder Rosa as well, they might do this weekly. Perhaps you've got Apollo, not Apollo, Sky.
Scorpio Sky.
Scorpio Sky's been missing for a while. And there's other guys, that we don't see as often, the likes of Swerve, the likes of Keith Lee. They've got the talent there. And whatever way they're going to split the roster, they've got stars to fill 4 hours of television with Dynamite and Collision. So that's going to be epic. And great to see them back. In terms of the tag match we saw last week, that they were building towards that, and Triple J, Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal had set the challenge out. So we were pretty confident it was going to lead to that. It is a double or nothing.
Oh, is it?
Okay. Yeah. And in terms of the Jericho match, I'm all in for this one as well. Going to be a great match next week. It's was it a Falls Count Anywhere match?
Falls Count Anywhere.
Falls Count Anywhere match with the JAS band from the building and Adam Cole band from the building. So I'm looking forward to that. I think that will be a great match next week and something to look forward to.
Me too. I just wonder, when they're talking about this band from the building stuff, do you think that also means that, like, maybe we know that potentially Jericho's heading towards Collision? So I know that now what's come about since is actually Punk will end up being on both shows, and they will end up going up, like, talent will switch from time to time anyway. But I just wonder if they're going to play that into the storyline a bit as well. So Jericho ends up obviously going that route to Collision.
They might do. Yeah, they might do. There's going to be some kind of explanation as to why certain wrestlers end up where they're ending up. I don't think they'll do a draft as such.
No.
So you might find that the storyline reasons as well as real life reasons as to why certain wrestlers are on certain shows.
Definitely. We move on to the International Championship this week. The spinning of the wheel got go. Well, Daniel Garcia was announced last week, actually. I digress. I shouldn't have said that. So my analogy of Tony Khan using the arcade machine. Orange Cassidy, Daniel Garcia. Again, match itself, I thought was really good. I was a little bit, I was kind of half expecting a change here. I don't know why. I love the fact that Orange Cassidy's got it, and I like the fact that, again, I do like long reigns as champions because it makes the title more prestigious. It gives it that shock factor when it does change. I do have to admit, I was expecting a change here, but I'm also glad that Cassidy kept the title.
Yeah, they get me most weeks, to be honest. Whether it's Cassidy's selling as well, his injury selling is just exceptional. I thought the change was coming a few weeks ago when he wrestled Buddy Matthews. I was convinced he was dropping the title, but he's gone on and won another one. This match was great again. All of the action tonight, every single match was fantastic. There was no weak match at all. Daniel Garcia was leaning into the sports entertainer and wrestler, the conflict, and introducing another 2 hours of television a week. Some of these seeds that have been planted in the past, they'll be able to revisit this. Because they got the crowd was chanting, "You're a wrestler." And he was absolutely playing up to it, and he was doing his little weird dance. And more of Daniel Garcia, you you can't really have a bad match with Orange Cassidy. It seems, whoever is in there, whatever style, he has a match of the night contender.
He does, and fair play to him, considering his gimmick is silly to a point, with his hands, and he does all that sort of silly little kicks, but he can go. There's absolutely no question of that, and that match proved it anyway.
If you look back to when AEW started, I wasn't too familiar with Orange Cassidy from the independents.
No.
So to begin with, it just seemed like a comedy character.
Yeah.
Bit of a manager for best friends. And he still does his comedy shtick now.
Yeah.
But he doesn't overdo it for me. He's got his trademark things that he does, but he mixes it up, and he evokes an emotion, a laugh. He hasn't got stale.
No.
And how he's managed to kind of build his career as a formidable wrestler as well, combined with keeping some of the comedy stuff. Just fantastic. There's nobody like him in the industry for me.
No, he's definitely a unique commodity.
One-off.
Yeah, one-off. The Christian Cage interview with Shivani. Oh, Jesus. Okay. So I'm gonna read this. It was like Christian said, basically Tony Schiavone said, "How did you get the title shot?" Christian said, "It's my career. I got the stroke." And then he said, unlike his previous opponent, this one has a father, hence Jack Perry. Nobody cares about Wardlow's father, so let's move on. And Arn Anderson was looking for a new son anyway. Now, he didn't. I'm guessing, and I'm hoping it wasn't, but I'm guessing Arn obviously just lost a son, Barrett. And Jesus Christ, I mean that was just.
I didn't think about that, but yeah, in hindsight, I'm sure that would have been cleared before.
Yes,
before Christian did it.
Yeah,
because I thought he was talking about Brock. But yeah, like you say, on did lose a son fairly recently. But as evil and sinister and some of the things that Christian says sometimes.
Yeah,
I would like to think he was talking about Brock Anderson.
Me too. And at the end, basically, he calls Arn Anderson a lapdog, and the other guy in the team is Blanchard. Now, at this point, the arena's chanting "Edge is better," and it flusters Christian a little bit, and then tells Detroit to kiss his ass. I don't really know what more to add about that, other than Jesus Christ, he got to that line, didn't he?
He started out the promo by saying that Detroit's the worst city in the country, and the volume just went up and up and up, and at times you had to kind of really strain your ears to hear what Christian was saying, because the amount of heat that he generated was incredible. I don't know about the Edge is better stuff. I think that's an attempt at fans to be humorous. I think that's a bit disrespectful. I didn't like that, to be honest. I know it's a bit of fun, and I'm sure he's heard it many times. And, similar to Matt Hardy, the comments he gets about Jeff Hardy, they're kind of used to it. But Christian, the career he's had, he's right up there alongside Edge's. So hopefully that was just a little bit of fun from the crowd. I
kind of think after he's using the fact that he needs a new son, perhaps. That might have just managed. Maybe the crowd thought, right, okay, you're going to get it now.
Maybe.
Obviously, building towards his match with Wardlow. I'm assuming this is Double or Nothing. I don't know if it's been confirmed yet, but I'm pretty certain.
I thought so. We're a couple of weeks out, and it seems like they're going to go that direction for the first title match, and I'm sure that will develop in time, and we'll see the Battle of the Big Men and Luchasaurus and Wardlow face off. But I'm expecting that title match at Double or Nothing. Yeah,
me too. The next match was No Holds Barred, Julia Hart and Anna Jay. Now, again, what I liked about this is this had a story to it. Anna Jay, Julia Hart had sprayed Anna Jay with the mist. The only thing that I was quite confused, I don't think it really matters, is I don't know who the heel is in this. I know Anna Jay was with JAS. I thought House of Black was heel. I don't know. Anyway, it's irrelevant. So they had a No Holds Barred match to kind of end this feud. And it had everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, the kendo sticks, chairs, the lot. Everything ended up, and I believe Julia Hart, she'd won, didn't she? Sorry.
Yeah.
But yeah, Julia Hart got the win. Sorry, my notes are a bit scribbled at that point. Yeah, Julia Hart locks in Heartless and Anna Jay taps. The match, I think, out of, if you had to say the weakest match of the night, it's that one. And it wasn't because it wasn't good, it was just because everything else was just way above.
Yeah.
But a good way, I suppose, to end that feud a bit now and move on to whatever they've got next.
Yeah, I think it might have suffered a little bit. I'm pretty sure Julie got hurt during the match. She seemed to hit her hip. Again, she might have just been selling really well, but she'd certainly looked uncomfortable at certain times. But her character and her presentation, her theme music, her entrance. I mean, she's 21 years old. She's got such a career ahead of her. I enjoyed this. As I say, I do understand where you're coming from. Not quite as strong as some of the other stuff, but yeah, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt and say that the injury might have played a part in that.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'd say I didn't mean it as in shitting on it in the match or anyway.
Yeah, no.
Out of everything that was on this card,
the bar was high, wasn't it?
The bar was up here, and they were probably here.
Yeah.
So they were a bit lower, but again, a good way to end it. So open house rules. So best friends decide that the chosen rule is witches are banned from ringside, assuming they mean Julia Hart at this point. It was House of Black and the Best Amigos, so Bandito and Best Friends. Really fun match. Really enjoyed it. I never expected the House of Black to lose the match. No. Dante's Inferno, I think, won it for the House of Black.
Yeah,
really fun. I'm just waiting for, without being disrespectful to Best Amigos, I'm just waiting for credible opponents to the House of Black. Like you could have, you just knew that match was, they were going to win. I just want to see who the three are that are going to give them a bit of a challenge.
Yeah. I think prior to getting injured, it might have been Top Flight and AR Fox. They seem to be going in that direction.
Yeah.
But Dante obviously getting injured might have changed the plans. Yeah. So maybe that's why they're going to throw a few more like one-off teams together for a while. Because the house rules are any three wrestlers can combine to form a trio and then challenge them. The Bucks are injured as well, but they're tied up with the feud with the BCC. But I think I think they will build a feud at some point. That's maybe when we've got two shows established and we know who's where. Yeah,
exactly. I'm going to throw a team at you, perhaps to feud with them. About United Empire, Aussie and Ospreay.
That would be incredible. That would be. I keep saying incredible. I think I've had it from Andy. I'm watching too many.
You're taking Andy's.
I'm watching too many Hitting the Turnbuckle podcasts. I think I keep dropping it. But that would be awesome. To see that match. There's a lot of things they can do around Forbidden Door as well. With New Japan. So I'm sure. I'm sure those are guys because it won't be all of the AW roster on the Forbidden Door pay-per-view. It will be select talent, but I certainly expect House of Black to be part of that event.
Maybe Bullet Club.
Yeah, absolutely.
Moving on towards the Open, in the back, Orange Cassidy is out, and there's Carl Fletcher. And he's basically holding both titles at this point, his title and Cassidy's. I believe that's next week.
Yeah, they've set that up for next week.
And that should, again, very entertaining. Cole Fletcher is fantastic. Cassidy's great. That should, again, be another match that's going to raise that bar of next week really high.
Yeah, and this, I know we've joked about, the tombola and whoever Tony Khan pulls out gets a shot at the international title. But they've kind of positioned Cassidy as a fighting champion that will take on all comers. So there's been a bit more like a 1 week build for certain matches, as you said earlier. And that's exactly what they've done with Carl Fletcher. It'd be interesting how that one plays out. And I'm sure it'll be a great match again.
Oh, definitely. Without a doubt. Main event time. I mean, I think I wrote down, holy shit, this had everything.
I wrote down new level of violence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's face it, we knew Moxley was going to bleed before the match even started. Let's not even think that. But
Yeah.
this match, even in terms of storytelling, had everything. Like the Young Bucks, we had the BCC come, they started, all it off in the ring, bam, they start going, there was no like rest point in this. It went from big spot to object spot to big spot to object spot to bleeding, everything. That V trigger through the cage, for Christ's sake. Omega hits the one-winged angel. The cover's there. The cage is already open because they've gone for it. Don Callis, bang, screwdriver straight to Omega, which we predicted a couple of weeks ago. That might be where they're looking to move it. Not necessarily, may not have joined the BCC. I'm going to give you my thoughts on that in a minute. But bang, he now's Omega. Moxley covers it. 1, 2, 3. This, I'm thinking they loaded this card up, and I'll tell you quickly, segue quick. Raw and SmackDown's cards this week are pay-per-view level, and I think it's because of the competition they've got with the NBA at the moment. The NPA are getting to their finals and stuff like that. So I'm not surprised they had this sort of on it, but this was pay-per-view quality. You could have put another 20 minutes on this and just let them go. My feeling with Don Callis, and we'll give it away slightly now, was on his Twitter handle, has put the King of Winnipeg, bruv, which, if you know what bruv all expects, it's Will Ospreay.
Mm-hmm.
So is Callis lining up with, is that what's going to headline All In?
Yeah, because we've speculated for weeks about which way Callis would go. We were pretty sure last week that he'd be involved in the finish of the match, which he absolutely was. But it wasn't quite what I expected. He didn't seem to align with the BCC.
No.
It wasn't that kind of replacing Regal type of role that I suspected that he might go into. Mm-hmm. So given what you've just said, it may well be. I'm sure All In or Forbidden Door, Ospreay against Omega would be an absolute show stealer.
Oh, well, it's been massive in Japan, hasn't it? These two. I believe Ospreay has never beaten him. I could be wrong on that.
I think Kenny won the last match in January, was it?
Kenny's won them all. I'll have to do research on that. I haven't researched it before we got on today. If even not, he's won the majority of them. Ospreay hasn't won in so long. And funny enough, he's only about 10 minutes down the road from me, man.
Is it?
He lives I know, sort of Thurrock way. So
okay.
So that opens up the next phase, I suppose. Is this now? Are we still going to get something with these two teams at Double or Nothing? Because that kind of felt not like normally cage matches end stuff. That's end. Or do we get one more where perhaps that's when we find out what Callis's motive is?
You're thinking Blood and Guts, maybe?
Double or Nothing.
Panic in the arena. It's difficult. Even though we'd been speculating it, and partly because of how much improved AEW's production is, and their camera angles, because they kind of left Don in the corner on the main shot. You could see his feet, or you could see him in the very corner, and it seemed as if he was almost too far to break up the pin for the one-winged angel. And then the swerve right at the last minute. I don't think this is the end of BCC and the Elite. Mm-hmm. I think Hangman will return. I think Takeshita will play a role in it as well. There's news online today. I've read that Ibushi, he said before that he'd love to work with in AEW again. Mm-hmm. There's news of him, potentially appearing and reforming the Golden Lovers with Kenny. So there's so much going on at the top of the card as well. And that's without the world title this week or any of the build really to that.
Didn't really do that, did they?
No, they seem to have they had a few video packages and they took a break from it, which may actually be the right thing to do, and focus on some of the other storylines. But I'm really interested to see where they go with it now, because even though even though something happened that we kind of loosely predicted, it didn't go down exactly how we thought. So
No, which is what
interesting to see where they go.
maybe, or is it going to be a United Empire versus Elite?
Yeah, that's
Potentially throw that out there, but it alluded more to Osprey on Twitter than it did.
Yeah, it's difficult because Danielson obviously was on commentary,
Yes.
and they didn't take any responsibility for it as well. They asked Danielson, did you know about this? Was this your plan all along? And he kind of said, I don't know anything about it. And now I know he's a heel, but he delivered that line in a way to suggest that it wasn't actually anything to do with him. So we'll see. We'll see. Hopefully, maybe there'll be a little video package or something on Rampage to move things on.
Not that I've read.
Okay.
I have read Rampage.
Have you?
Yeah. The Mysterious Action Andretti comes back after a hiatus for a while.
Yeah, he's been floating around. I think he did a Ring of Honor show. But he hasn't been on Dynamite for a while.
No, ever since he beat Jericho, near enough, wasn't it? What was I going to say? I had something in my head then, and it threw me talking about Action Andretti. What was I going to say? I can't remember that.
Is it Ricky Starks, baby? The Jay White match has been announced, hasn't it?
Next week, yes. Yeah. I'm going to go into that. Ricky, thank you. You brought me back into where I needed to be. Ricky Starks, Jay White's been happening this week. The Outcasts and Britt, Jamie, and Sheeda have also been announced for next week.
Okay.
Where are we looking at here on Double or Nothing? Because I assume that would be there. Maybe it will. Maybe they'll do a finish and it will progress on to a Double or Nothing match. But they need to announce quite a few matches next week.
Yeah, so there's at least 2 matches been announced this week that we were expecting to be on the pay-per-view.
Yeah.
So you would think after spending so much time Ricky Starks feuding with Juice Robinson and Jay White that the end to that feud or the blow-off match would be at the pay-per-view. Similarly with the Outcasts and Britt, Jamie, and Sheeda.
Yeah.
So now they're happening here. I mean, it's great from a week to week point of view for us because there's matches there already that, we're licking our lips over and thinking, you can't roll around quick enough.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're looking at a pay-per-view event and you're trying to convince money to spend, over here it's 20 quid, over in the States, $50 for a pay-per-view, perhaps, they're going to have to announce a couple of big matches, but they always do. They always, when it comes to pay-per-views, they always pull it out the bag. But I'm not sure what's going to happen. You've got these returns this week as well, although we're not really expecting to see them before Collision in a match kind of environment. Who knows?
What I was going to actually say was at the end of Double or Nothing, we're expecting MJF to retain, obviously.
Yes.
Do we then see his next opponent?
Yeah. So I was thinking maybe they would go and break off with one of the pillars in a singles feud. I don't think they're going to do that now.
No.
I think after this fatal 4-way, I think MJF retains, and then he's going to set up his big summer program. Something really juicy, similar to the CM Punk storyline last year, or even like the Danielson, the lead to the Danielson match this year. I think it's definitely time to kind of do that with him.
I was thinking, and this is creative hat and just shooting shit that we normally sometimes we do. Because if you remember when MJF come back, he won the Casino Battle Royal and they played that voicemail from Tony Khan. And would they do that? And I know it's, again, this is fantasy, not necessarily fantasy booking, but could they do that with Punk?
I definitely think when they blur wrestling storyline with reality and elements of truth and big elements of truth in what happened with Punk, you get the best content. It's the most kind of engaging, enthralling storylines, and MJF is a master at that. So whether the Punk and MJF continue or whether they do something, similar to, as you say, what they did with MJF, wouldn't surprise me at all. For as young as MJF is, he seems to have a phenomenal wrestling brain, and he has as much input into his storylines as some of the more experienced wrestlers do. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if they've been cooking something up for a while.
Maybe. just lastly, before we finish up today, the other thing that has come out is that CM Punk is now pushing for a different opponent to start Collision.
Okay.
Not saying he's not working with Jericho, but apparently they haven't announced who it is.
Mm-hmm.
Who could it be?
Well, I mean, we had this news of the meeting a few weeks ago, and the hopes that there'd be some kind of working relationship with the Young Bucks and Kenny.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that would be fireworks, wouldn't it? If kind of we lead into a summer of feuding with Punk and the Elite.
Yeah.
After everything that's happened, if they can turn that into a storyline and a program, that'd be epic. Other people, I mean, do you think Punk's going to come back as a heel or a face? I mean, there's a lot of AEW, a lot of the AEW faithful that will maybe be a little bit pissed at Punk for the negative media attention it brought AEW. They were on a real, even all in the pay-per-view when Punk won the belt prior to the brawl out and being stripped, they were just on this upward trajectory. And then off the back of that and the police investigation, the suspensions, whichever way you try and spin it, it damaged AEW. And I think some fans perhaps didn't want him back. So I don't know how they're going to position him. He's done some of his best work as a heel. Yeah. But when he come back in, Chicago, and ever since, the CM Punk chants have been present most weeks when he returns. So I'm struggling to decide how I think they're going to kind of position him as a heel or a babyface.
Gonna be difficult because obviously his first show back is Chicago.
Yeah, but they're not going to boo him there.
Of course they're not. That's the point.
He could do anything.
Yeah, exactly. Well, unless he doesn't do what he wants, because we'll end up back at Brawl Out again.
I mean, the fantasy booker in me would love to see a Colt Cabana, but I think that could be. I think the story they could tell there would be phenomenal, and I think it's something that Colt Cabana deserves, a big high-profile feud. Again, how realistic that is with all the the court case and everything like that.
You've got more chance of seeing CM Punk versus the Elite than you have of that one.
Yeah, exactly. But we don't. I mean, Punk seems to be building bridges with his friends at the WWE. He's been at Impact. He's had this meeting with Jericho and Dax and Cash. So it's really interesting to talk about. I'm sure whatever it will be good. A lot of interest as to how Punk performs in the ring, because he didn't have too many matches when he came back, and he's had a lot of time off again. So I'm sure it'll be great, but we'll wait and see.
And the good thing about Dynamite this week, as we finished, was that it ended making you want to watch next week.
Yeah.
And that was I love that about wrestling. It's like, I need to be able to sit there and go, oh, Jesus, I need to watch this next week because I need to find out what happens here, what happens there, what's Don Callis doing. It delivered on that because the cage. I mean, most of the matches on the card, I mean, you're like, Jesus, we're going to get to see more of Phoenix next week, or Claudio, or Orange has got this guy next week, and great, well, I'm going to want to see that. And then the ending was like, okay, I need to watch next week.
Well, it's kind of akin to when you're watching a good series on Netflix or, a Game of Thrones or a Breaking Bad type series, when you get to the end of the episode and you just have to watch the next one. Yeah. And, it's a weekly program, so we can't do that. But the feeling is the same. If it was possible, if it was recorded, we'd be straight on to the next week to find out what happened, to see more of the matches. It felt like a mini pay-per-view for me this week. It really did. It felt like a real big deal. I thought the crowd was great after a few weeks where the crowd have been a little bit subdued for an AEW crowd, which I know there's high expectations of an AEW crowd because of how wild and they usually are. I think it was a return to the former glory this week, but I think the show that AEW put out was deserving of that as well.
Yeah.
So I think everything worked this week. I've got no criticism at all, really.
No, absolutely not. I thought it was one of the best shows I've seen so far this year from AEW. That brings this to an end. But Dave, we're not finished this evening yet, are we? We've got one more to do this evening, and That will be in a few hours' time when we sit down and chat all things wrestling with the professor of professional wrestling, Mr. Bobby Fish. That will come out tonight a bit later on. Until then, Dave, it's always a pleasure. We'll see you later. And guys, we will definitely be back later with you. Until then, buckle down and stay safe.